wondering why the change of scenery? It is that at the time of the shoot, our video editor was absent, and so we could not, confirm our green screen. But we had to continue because the show must go on. Welcome to yet another episode of Ground Zero. It is I, your host, Indikato, and in Ground Zero we get to discuss and break down issues, very serious issues pertaining Nigeria. The aim is to inform and educate each other towards action, right? Because, knowledge is actually power, and we're here to give you that power. Welcome to Ground Zero. Major thing I want to talk about, can we touch on the by-elections that happened on December 5th? I know it is that time has passed a little, but on December 5th, by-elections held in 8 states in Nigeria, 6 senatorial by-elections. You know what 6 senators are? And of course, a lot of federal and state House of Assemblies had people actually running in those by-elections. And Sorosoke generation, we did not show up. Now, let me speak for myself. I come from Kaduna State. Nothing happened in Kaduna State. But in other states, something did happen. Lagos, for example, where we were expecting some form of message to be passed, it just went flat. And I want to touch on that because it was the usual suspects, the 2 political parties that we keep saying, these 2 parties are the same and we don't want. Those were the parties that actually took the wins in these by-elections. And the issue remains that it was an opportunity for young people to show that, look, things have changed. And we didn't really show that. What did we do? Voter apathy. Voter apathy is never, and I can assure you, is never the answer. Voter apathy, let us establish that now. Voter apathy is a no-no. It is not the answer. It's not the way to pass a message. We called it a boycott. That's what some people called it. You can boycott, ceremonial events. You can boycott lectures, boycott exams. President says all of us gather, we're supposed to gather every 1st October, and we say we are boycotting. Those are things you boycott. But you see an election, you do not boycott an election. An election is an opportunity to show your power. And we could have. If you had a problem with the 2 major political parties, there were other political parties. Now the key is, if you said all of the candidates were the same, how about we use that opportunity to show the 2 major political parties, APC, PDP, that you know what, we can make an obscure candidate win, because regardless, in those by-elections, one candidate was going to show up. Let's look at the Lagos example. Lagos East, I think, Lagos East senatorial zone, 1.3 million registered voters. You know how many people came out to vote? Less than 150,000 voters. That is woeful. Even if we were not registered, it was a time for voter education. It was a time to ginger people to come up. It was a time to pass a message. If we are waiting for 2023, let me assure you, 2023 has already begun. At least I have little political experience. I can tell you that 2023 has already begun. In fact, these elections, these by-elections that happened on December 5th, were part of 2023. They are the things that show this is kind of like the direction we're going. These are the people we have secured who are not going to the polls then, but are strong enough to add to the polls. So we had an opportunity. And if you think that these things don't work, no. We have a member of the House of Reps from Benue State who actually contested, ran for the primaries, and I think PDP did not get the ticket, switched to a smaller party, but because he had a youth movement behind him, he won that. So what am I trying to say? That every single election is an opportunity. Every single election is a battle. It's a battle that we have to win. If we're not winning that battle, if we're not showing up for that battle, people will still show up for that battle, and whoever shows up for the battle wins. Voter apathy should not have been it. It was an opportunity. We failed to take advantage of that opportunity. And we must rise up when other opportunities arise. Let's discuss that. Sound off in the comments and let's see where we're going to go from here in the case of another election, and what we intend to do in the face of this, given the fact that 2023 is just how many years in front of us. And let's keep in mind that campaigns really start by the ending of 2021, and we are about entering 2021. And I wish this was a segment that could get me as excited as the other ones, but this is in real time the kind of tragedy Nigerians are getting used to these days. On Friday, the 11th of December 2020, yet another group of young children, little children, teenage boys precisely, were kidnapped from a secondary school in Katsina State. Now the numbers are what is, on top of this tragedy, then we have to look at the numbers. These numbers are absolutely shocking. and traumatic to even hear. Now, from the eyewitness report of one of the boys who managed to escape, he says there are about 500 plus boys. There's a report of 600 and then 300 plus according to the governor of the state, Masari. But let's look at these boys' possible numbers, which is about 520 something boys missing, and look at what that means. I keep looking at the streets I live on and I'm like, we're not up to 500 and something on this street, but we are many. And I'm trying to imagine the situation where 500 plus boys can be moved. And if we look at the geography of Katsina State, it's not like the forest or the trees or, there's density of forestry there. So this is a lot of open land. It's terrorists having the ability to run through this open land, run amok, and do what it is they want to do and get away with it. And if we're looking at 520 something boys, 520 boys, let me stop at that number. If we're looking at 520 boys, let's imagine it. What are the logistical implications of moving 520 boys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Imagine the logistics of moving those boys. And what was happening when those boys were moved? And other questions I tend to ask myself is this, that, okay, if 600 or if 500, 400 NSAS protesters or any form of protesters in Nigeria were on the move at that time of the night, saying that, we're going to do a procession to protest against government brutality or against insecurity or against the myriad of problems that Nigerians have to deal with daily, what would have been the response? I assure you, the army, all parts of our military, civil defense, police, name it, even Federal Road Safety Corps that they want to give guns to now, everybody would have shown up to attack that protest. So what happened when it was time to protect the lives of Nigerians? This again speaks to the devaluation of the Nigerian life. Now that is what I'm thinking of. Another one I was thinking of is, if 500 Shiites, members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, had said, and this also speaks to intelligent gathering, has said that, at this time of the night, we are going to do one of our religious processions. The same thing, all forms of state actors, all armed state actors, even the ones that are not armed, from the Nigerian army down to the police, down to civil defense, all of them would have shown up. DSS, name it, they would have shown up. History has shown us that they would have shown up to attack that procession. And it would have ended up in a bloodied situation. So how then is it that when it comes to intelligence gathering for the protection of young people, that did not happen? Another aspect to this, which is demoralizing, is the fact that earlier on in the week, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, was said to have left Abuja, where, there was a serious ongoing conversation about his appearance before the National Assembly. Some outlets report that the president, escaped and left there and went to his hometown in Daura to rest in the midst of all the chaos right now. Imagine another country, imagine America, that happening, the uproar. But let's look at Ghana. If that happened in Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo would have been in trouble. But let's come back to Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari decides, at this time when there's so many issues, and of course we're just coming off the beheading of 111 people in Borough State, but I will get back to that. And then the National Assembly, there's talk, some members of the House of Reps have started initiating, bringing up the conversation of impeaching the president. So in the middle of all that chaos, the president takes himself and moves to Daura. And then right there in Daura, a few kilometers away from where the president is, within the same state, what happens? Boys are kidnapped. 520 boys are kidnapped. And as they are kidnapped, some of these young children are jumping into the bush. Imagine the trauma, jumping into the bush, running to hide, all of that. Some don't know what their tomorrow is going to look like. They are being taken far away, and knowing the history of Nigeria, knowing the insurgency, knowing the insecurity, these boys know what is going to happen to them. They're already running through all of these other events and they're being carted away. The president is within the same vicinity and nothing happens. As if that is not bad enough. We're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, President Muhammadu Buhari has not uttered a word about the tragedy that occurred, the avoidable tragedy that occurred within the same state he comes from, and the same place he was at, the same state he was at when this tragedy occurred. Not a word. That is problematic. But that does not compare to the fact that, just today I woke up this morning and what did I see? Sahara reporters, Yele Shawore, had released a video of Buhari himself, his team, whoever it was that thought it was wise enough to release that video of President Muhammadu Buhari going to visit his cows. He did not release a statement to the nation, did not address the nation. The international community is talking. United Nations has said, the Secretary General of United Nations released a statement asking for the government to secure the freedom of those boys. The international community is talking, local NGOs, CSOs, everybody is speaking, media is talking, the parents are crying. Mr. President has not said anything. Instead, we get a clip of Mr. President at that time visiting his cows. Now, if you want to deny that this is not the time this happened, no, the people in that clip, there are people with face masks in the clip, so we know what time it is and we know where it is happening. That is, right now, being Nigerian is an absolute tragedy and just adds salt to the entire injury that we're going through. But we also have to face the response of the presidency. If you're looking at the presidency's response to things recently, there is nobody that the Nigerian government cannot fight with these days. Nobody. If the UN says, 111 people were beheaded here, the Nigerian government will go there and fight. If CNN says, so happened in Lekki, at the Lekki toll gate, the Nigerian government is ready to fight. If UN releases a statement, anybody releases a statement, and there is nobody. If the US says something, our government is ready to respond. And it's like the readiness to respond. We are hoping that same readiness is what terrorists will be faced with. Unfortunately, that is not the case. This is really depressing. This is saddening. Let me come back to another issue. When the governor went there, Governor Masari went there, this happened in Kankara. When he went there, the parents of these missing boys were there. Imagine if you sent your son to get an education, your teenage child in the middle of the chaos that is happening in Nigeria, and that child has been kidnapped. And you know that children who were kidnapped in 2014 have not been found. 2014, Buniyadi, 20-something boys, I think 29 boys, were beheaded by terrorists. So right now, your mind is really racing because you don't know where your baby is. And chances are something very tragic can happen to this child. And you go to Kankara, you go to where you kept your child, knowing or hoping that the Nigerian government will secure these children, and that does not happen. Then the governor comes, then you express how sad you are. And to be honest, if I'm the governor of Katsina State and I fail to protect, governor and chief security officer, and I fail to protect children, and I show up there where the parents are, honestly, I am ready for a situation of anything that I see, I will take it like that. And these parents are expressing their grief. And Masari's aides, his security details decide that, it's the Nigerian police, whoever it is, decides that the best thing to do is again, tear gas, brutalize the crowd. Who are the crowd? The parents of the missing children. Nigeria, please. Please. Of course, the incident in Kankara adds to the pain the nation is already feeling from the beheading of 111 men in Borno. These were farmers who had gone to farm, and you should understand the desperation of the times. People are hungry, harvest is low due to insecurity, different forms of natural disasters, that this nation, it happens every year and the nation should be prepared for, but research and response somehow in Nigeria is a bit of a problem. Okay, so these farmers are desperate. They go to the farm, Boko Haram shows up, lines them up and beheads them. It keeps running through my head, like the number 20 guy that was beheaded, for example, he had seen number 1, number 2, number 3, and you know that is your last moment. Like your last moments are filled with the trauma of seeing one man after the other being beheaded. Do you know what that even means? Then let's look at again, let's go back to the logistics, the timing, and where security personnel were where was the Nigerian army when this was happening? Because do you know what it means to dislodge a head? We saw videos of the people with their heads on their bodies. Like I saw pictures of these victims with their heads on their bodies. So it means they dislodged it completely. Now the time it would take to execute that number of people, and in the middle of that, number 100 is hoping that, you know what, against all odds, maybe Nigerian army will show up. Maybe somebody will show up. You are hoping, you are praying, and again you are failed. This really hurts to discuss. And in all of this, the service chiefs have not been fired. We're hearing the service chiefs being able to be loud, to talk, to go on. You're seeing the Minister of Defense at the National Assembly still making reference to past, saying, oh, it is safer now than it was before. As if these people who are dying do not matter. And I want us to be clear about one thing. Every single Nigerian life matters, and the loss of every single Nigerian life must be seen as a failure. One life must be seen as a failure. But every time this happens, we reduce Nigerians to numbers. Oh, so number of people killed. We're never going to know if it is Muhammad, Musa, Abdul, Chijoki. Nothing. It is 10 people. It's just 5. It's just, if those just 5 came from your family, what would you think? How would you feel? And it is consistently how the Nigerian system, how the Nigerian government, how the Nigerian ruling class reacts to the brutal loss of Nigerian lives by telling us, oh, it could have been worse. Oh, so years ago, it was like this. And you would see it, you would see the lack of intelligence when this conversation is going on. It's so disappointing. This is another opportunity again to call for. Again, at this point, the service chiefs, unless of course you put them in there to fulfill something else other than to secure the sovereignty of Nigeria, secure Nigeria, and secure Nigerian lives. If you put them for something else, dear President Muhammadu Buhari, you need to tell us. But if it is that you put them to do the job of securing Nigeria, securing our sovereignty, and securing the lives of Nigerians, they have failed by all ramifications and they need to go. This is the end of today's episode. Like I said, I wish this episode was as cheery as the last one. Unfortunately, it is not. Too many Nigerians are dying. Nigerian lives are greatly devalued. Nigerian lives obviously do not matter anywhere. We're feeling the pain in our country. We're feeling the pain in other countries because other people are realizing that, look, the system right now, whatever is obtaining in Nigeria right now, is not working for Nigerians. Nigerians no longer have the place they used to have on the international scene. And this is disastrous for every single one of us. We must ponder on these things and look for how best to push this conversation. Until next time, I remain Indicato, and this is Ground Zero. Thank you.